We're with Darlene Cavalier, who's the founder of SciStarter, and her panel is on connecting the silos of citizen science. Tell us about that, Darlene. What's exciting about connecting the silos of citizen science?
Well, citizen science as a field is a very exciting thing to explore from many different angles. So there's a lot to talk about just there. But one specific area that my colleagues and I are really intent on studying and exploring is this area where gaps exist between communities. There's a lot of work being done to explore what types of tools and platforms exist, what types of the typology of projects that exist out there. I'm not seeing a lot done to really explore ways to bring communities together. And right now, the fact of the matter is the communities are siloed. They're siloed because of artificial boundaries that we've sort of created because I don't think anybody really knew where the field was heading. So we have projects that cater to astronomy fans or birding fans or nature enthusiasts, environmentalists. They come in all different shapes and sizes. The tasks that they're being asked to do are very different. Some are annotating online images, online files. Some may be more data collection. But I have a hunch, and it's just a hunch right now, but a lot of people share this feeling that if given the right opportunities and the right mechanisms, some of these communities may cross pollinate in ways that allow them to self organize in ways that we really can't determine what will happen once we get these crazy citizen scientists who are just the most amazing people together and remove some of those kind of artificial boundaries that I mentioned before. So that's partly what we want to explore here at your conference.
Citizen science is sort of faces two ways. It is, of course, a way of advancing scientific knowledge by enlisting a lot more people to gather data than had ever happened before, but it also has a potential for learning. What do you think about that aspect of it, Darlene?
Yeah, that's one of the other outcomes that we hope to see. So if we're able to bring these communities together, the definition of how we define learning in citizen science may actually change. Because right now, that's a great example. The field of the learning outcomes, the study of the learning outcomes of citizen science tend to be done in silos. So it might be the nature project studying their audience and doing, good evaluations before and after a project to see what those learning outcomes are. And a lot of that work is being led by Cornell University. And we have the online astronomy group and some of the more popular online projects and platforms really getting to know their audience and looking at some of the measurable outcomes there. But what does it mean for somebody to learn in a more interdisciplinary way? We don't know yet. We don't know. I shouldn't say we don't know outside of formal education. Of course, there's metrics to support evaluations and other outcomes in ways that we're used to studying. But right now, citizen science really provides us just an amazing opportunity to look at some of those questions.
Well, in terms of learning, what would it mean to connect the silos?
Yeah.
Say you're wildly successful. What's that going to look like 5 or 10 years from now?
Hopefully, it's a lot sooner than that. Um, so 5 or 10 years, I don't even know what this field will be called by then. But one of the most immediate things we can start to explore at conferences like yours and others coming up is this idea of lowering as many barriers to entry as possible. So, for example, on SciStarter, we have more than 700 curated active projects that are aggregated in our site and served up to the best of our ability in ways that we think people would look for projects. So, based on your interests, that's one way, but also maybe based on more matters of convenience. So, hey, show me projects I can do at the beach with my kids in less than 15 minutes. So they're pretty granular in their search terms that we're using. We also share projects across platforms by serving them up on our partner sites like Discover Magazine and the National Science Teachers Association and other outlets that we use. But still, almost every single project requires a login, and these login systems vary wildly. So instead of trying to bring all these projects together under one platform, which there really isn't a need for, in my opinion, projects are operating very nicely with the tools that they've developed and the platforms that are needed for their specific type of project. One thing we can look at is how can we create an identity management system for citizen scientists? So they have, maybe it's a login. Let's say it's a login. They have one login that gets them access to all of these different projects, every project, so that they themselves forget about what it means to advance the areas of research. We know that's going to happen. But how about for the individual user, that they would be able to then start to track their contributions to science, their interests across many, many different projects and fields, and be able to, have that as their own little backpack to take around. So my vision, I guess, would be almost an engagement dashboard that's portable. And so individuals can track what it means for them to be involved in these projects, what some of the outcomes have been. And then I think that's where we'll be able to start measuring the behaviors and the motivations and the activities of people across a lot of different projects and platforms and fields, and start to enable them to come together and create these sort of self-organized communities to go ahead and do things we can't even imagine yet.
I can see an intersection with a parallel movement, which are many educators feel that students shouldn't just leave their homework behind, but should create public portfolios, e-portfolios of their work. And I can see that a portfolio that would include contributing to real science
Yes.
might have value, educational value, and value to the individual student as well.
Yeah, yeah. First of all, I'm also very excited about this conference because it gives me an opportunity to learn about all those amazing things happening. So I'm very, very excited about that. And you're right, it's not far-fetched to imagine a very short leap, in fact, to how what I'm imagining for citizen science may mesh up very nicely with other conversations happening in the education field, with some of the massive open online courses that are happening where they're looking to get credentials for those forms of learning. They're very close cousins to what we're talking about here, as is, by the way, people who get involved in policy related conversations. So it's to me, it's not that impossible to imagine this type of dashboard helping somebody track their engagement across many different areas of science and technology. But this is the thing that we want to explore there. I'm sure we will find out a lot of reasons of why technically this is difficult to do. Philosophically, it might be difficult for project owners to feel comfortable with sharing their communities with other projects and platforms. But my co-panelists are folks who are looking at this very seriously as well. They also include, by the way, the other definition of bringing down these or uniting these silos is the idea of online offline sharing of tasks in citizen science. So we have with us will be people from public labs. So they are a very good distributed community and network, really, of people who come together to develop tools to monitor environmental conditions. Everything they do is open source. So we look at that and we think, well, how can some of those tools be applied to advance certain projects that are already out there in the field for citizen science? How can this one group, and they're not alone, they're also the makers and the instructable people and the inventables and others, how can this group that are making these phenomenal tools be brought a little more closer to more traditional researchers? Traditional, by the way, who are also evolved enough to look at citizen science seriously and working with the public seriously. How can we start to apply some of these tools to existing citizen science projects to improve those projects, improve the data quality that happens, improve the experience for the volunteer as well? And to that end, we'll be working with Francois Gray and Danielle, who work at Crowdcrafting. So they have a platform that is a data collection and a data analyzer. Basically, they allow people to come and add data as well as sort through and classify data. They're looking at ways to enable groups like public labs and others who are developing sensors, networking sensors, to be able to really come together. So that's a different definition. That's more looking at how can these projects be united in ways, the projects and the tools be united in ways that take down some of those barriers, or unite these silos. But it's the other side as well that I want to start exploring, and so do my colleagues, about how do we share these communities more effectively as well. So there's a lot of work to be done. So I hope a lot of people show up and add to the conversation, and ask a lot of questions and help us formulate this thinking more.
I think this is going to be a great kind of pebble in the pond. The
That's great.
DML community is going to ripple out. So
Yes,
thank you for
my
what
pleasure.
you're doing. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Take care, Howard. Bye.